Good afternoon and welcome to Headline London. I'm Claudia Liza Armar, here with your lunchtime news and analysis. As always, we want you to get involved in the programme, and you can do that by tweeting us at London Live, adding the hashtag Headline London, or just leave a comment on our Facebook page. Here's what we're talking about today. A record 3 in 4 prosecutions for domestic violence ended in conviction last year. The Director of Public Prosecutions says she's incredibly proud, but we're talking to women's rights campaigners who say the figures don't tell the full story. Much for that, James. Now, the Crown Prosecution Service say the last 12 months has seen the highest ever conviction rate for domestic violence. Now, speaking at a conference later today, the Director of Public Prosecutions will announce that a record 75% of prosecutions for domestic violence last year ended in conviction. Now, campaigners welcome the figures but warn they hide a different reality. Now, here to talk about that are Nicola Mann. Now, she's from Women Against Rape. And Diana Nami, she's founder of the Iranian and Kurdish Women's Rights Organisation. So, Nicola, this surely is a step in the right direction.
Well, we find that the figures are very misleading that have been released today, a 75% conviction rate for domestic violence, when in actual fact, overall, from reporting domestic violence to a conviction in court, the rate is much lower. In London last year, there were approximately 118,000 reports of domestic violence, but the conviction rate for domestic violence offences in London was only 4.6%. So while the figures are coming out saying this is great, the conviction rate is 75%, it's not looking at the reason as to why over 90% of women don't report domestic violence in the first place, and why out of all the reports that there are overall from reporting, there is only still a conviction rate of less than 6% nationally.
I mean, would you agree with this, Diane?
Oh, definitely. Although I am very encouraged by the report and welcoming that, and also I hope that it will encourage many women to come forward and, having trust in police services that their case is going through all the way. But I definitely agree with that it's still underreporting, and the reality, I believe strongly, is much bigger than that. We are talking about, the statistic always shows 1 in 4 women become a victim of domestic violence, but then 1 in 4 women in the UK is quite larger number than 58,000 cases. So I think still it's the cases that has been convicted. Not many cases, perhaps they have been referred, or they were not convicted, or they withdraw their cases because of many other issues or concerns that women have. They withdraw those cases. Yeah.
I mean, Nicola, you're right, there still is an issue in terms of women coming forward and reporting the cases, but the police are doing something, the Crown Prosecution Services are doing something you've been calling on, women's rights campaigners have been calling on. Is this not really a good move? Now these convictions are happening, this will help those women who don't report these cases to come forward?
Well, no, we don't think it will, because from what we see, the All-Party Parliamentary Group inquiry just recently released figures that 90% of those that took part said that there are still access to women in the justice system for domestic violence is halted very badly for a number of reasons. A lot of reasons women will report domestic violence, and the police response is so poor that they're too frightened to report again. We have worked with sex workers who have reported rape and domestic violence, but are then prosecuted themselves for sex work. We see women that have very insecure immigration status reporting domestic violence to the police, but the police are more interested in their immigration status. And we still see women going to the police and the police response being really appalling. One woman that went to the police when the police left her property said to her, "Don't make a habit of this." We also see women that report domestic violence, and what they're reporting, their charges are not applied correctly. So, for example, we had one woman that reported her ex-partner, making very clear and direct recorded threats to kill her and her children. Now, when we got involved, because the charge was only harassment, we actually found that the police and the CPS hadn't even listened to the recordings, so he was never charged with making threats to kill. And it's these issues which are making women still very, very frightened to come forward. The officers are never held to account. Nothing actually changes. So while Alison Saunders can say that there's a 75% conviction rate and the police are getting so much better at gathering evidence, we see from the women that come to us that is absolutely not the case.
So, Diane, what do you think the police should do? What should also the Crown Prosecution Services do?
Definitely, I am very much agreeing with you said. The under-reporting, it's especially very worrying within minority communities. Yesterday we had a conference, CADA's conference, about young people and young women, and there actually all the cases they talk about that they have not been heard by police, and their cases has been dismissed simply, as you mentioned that, and many of them has not been heard. So for women, especially from minority community, there are so many barriers for them, and when they are encouraged to go to police, if police simply turn them down, they may not have this courage to come back again, because trusting and building trust is extremely important, and they can trust them when they do action, when they do something, when they are there to help them and to listen to them. Otherwise, they will not return back.
Well, Alison Saunders, the Director of Public Prosecutions, she actually says referrals are up. Police are actually... So there is some sign where police are actually listening to these women. The referrals are up. She's given everybody a pat on the back at CPS. You're saying that's not good enough?
It's not the full picture. It's a small part of the picture. It's very tiny, tiny bit of the reality of the domestic violence, honor-based violence, and any other form of violence against women. In our experience, for example, with honor-based violence, we did a research. And the research was shocking about honor-based violence when, in 2008, the first strategy for ACPO, it says that all police forces, they must record and flag all the HPV cases. Whereas our research was shocking. It shows that only 1 in 5 police forces, not police officers, police forces, that means thousands of police, they don't record, or they don't record it properly. That means there is not even referral to Crime Prosecution Service at all, because in the first stage they have not been heard. So this is the dangerous there, that many of those women may be killed, may be sent back to their home country. Even in the UK, I mean, even British women, just imagine a British woman can speak fluent English. If she have this barrier to not be listened, what about those who cannot even speak English?
So, Nicola, what do you want done here? What do you want police officers and the Crown Prosecution Services to do? Well,
we met with Alison Saunders yesterday because we're outraged that women are still being prosecuted when they report rape and domestic violence. Professor Hester from the University of Bristol carried out research that said women are disproportionately being arrested for domestic violence themselves. So if they use physical violence in self-defence, they're more likely to be arrested than the perpetrator. We've just seen a woman sentenced to 3.5 years, a young mother, for making a false allegation, which we don't believe is a false allegation. Women are not going to come forward and have the confidence to report rape and domestic violence to the police if they fear they're going to be arrested themselves. And the other problem that we find as well is that women don't have the financial resources to leave domestic violence situations. The government are cutting access to legal aid. They've introduced the benefit cap. Refuges are closing. Women are being told to sleep in A&E or on night buses. Women are not going to report unless they've got the financial resources to leave. And we've got a police force that believes in them and stops prosecuting them.
OK, listen, Nicola and Diane, thank you so much for joining us today on Headline London.
Thank you.
Right, you are watching Headline London. It's at 12:47. As you saw with James, it's a beautiful day out there today. The sun's out and it looks like we're heading for one of the hottest days of the year so far. One person who can confirm all of this is Vanessa Baffo. Vanessa, please tell us it's going to be a gorgeous